late Muhammadu Buhari was a man of rare privilege and opportunity. There was a North-Southern alliance that brought the likes of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and whoever to form an alliance. He contested, they told us he won. Note that word, we were told he won. Mohammed Jega did a wonderful work for him. Buhari didn't drag Nigeria back by 8 years he spent. He dragged Nigeria back by more than 50 years. What he did in his civilian presidency was what he did in his first term as an head of state. We are not addressing the issue of legacy for the sake of the departed soul, but rather to serve as compass, lessons, or guidance to those of us who are presently alive. Buhari failed me as a person, and Buhari failed Nigeria. Hallelujah. This is an address to air my own opinion concerning the recently passed on former president of Nigeria, in person of late Muhammadu Buhari. I want to target legacies of late Muhammadu Buhari. And when we are talking about legacy, we are not addressing the issue of legacy for the sake of the departed soul, but rather to serve as compass, lessons, or guidance to those of us who are presently alive. Late Muhammadu Buhari was a man of rare privilege and opportunity. I was in secondary school when he came into power as the head of state in 1983. Some people will say 1984. Depends, because the coup was staged on December 31st, 1983. So he began his administration properly on 1st of January, 1984. So my chagrin or amazement, within 5 months, the man has brought hardship on Nigerians. Yes. He came to power on the mantra of fighting corruption, nepotism, tribalism. That was how he listed it. I remember we have his almanac in our living room or parlor, so-called there. Himself and his deputy, the late Tunde Idi-Agbon, they launched then war against indiscipline. But before you know it, he claimed what he did in his civilian presidency was what he did in his first term as an head of state. Change of currency everywhere was hardship. You have money, you can spend it. He did it in so much that there's no way you can exchange all the money you have for the new notes he created there, all in the name of dealing with or preventing some corrupt politicians from being able to spend the money they have stolen. Those were the days you heard of money being kept in a soak away, money being kept in overhead tanks of water, and all the rest. But lo and behold, it was all a charade. President Muhammadu Buhari, for the 20 months he spent in government then, had nothing substantial than Decree 2 and Decree 4. He used Decree 2 to gag the media. There was no media that can criticize his policies. You clamp down on them, lock them up. He went as far as sending some people to UK to kidnap Umaru Diko. They hypnotized him, put him in a crate like ice fish before they got the secret got leaked at the airport, and the mission was aborted. Then, by August 1985, he was ousted by another coup plotter, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. To me, as young as I was then, I was politically informed, and we thought this is a good riddance to bad rubbish. But some people had a kind of nostalgia that, giving opportunity, giving a long time, giving a better time, giving more years, Buhari and Idi-Agbon will have done well for Nigeria. Those were the days they whip people in the bus stop, especially in Lagos State. If you don't queue to form a line to enter bus at the bus stop, you'll be whipped. Soldiers will come from nowhere beating everybody. Line up, line up, line up. Then we thought that was bye-bye to his leadership. But, like I mentioned, he was a man of rare opportunity. Democracy came, the same democracy he aborted. How do I know he was nepotistic and corrupt? He jailed Baba Adekunle Ajasin, the then governor of Ondo State. He jailed Bisi Onabanjo, the then governor of Ogun State. So he sentenced some people to as many as 100 years in prison, 120 years in prison. But the same person, he jailed Alex Ekwueme, vice president to Shehu Shagari. But because Shehu Shagari was a Fulani man like him, he didn't jail Shehu Shagari. He only put him in house arrest. The same man who claimed to be fighting corruption and fighting nepotism. But some people were so naive or so gullible that they didn't see through that, and they felt, no, let's give him check on sounds. 2003, he contested against Obasanjo. He lost. 2007, he contested against his cousin, late Umaru Yar'Adua. He lost. 2011, he contested against Goodluck Jonathan. He lost. That was when he talked about baboon and monkey will be soaked in blood. Close to 100 National Youth Service Corps members in Katsina State were killed by his followers who went on rampage that was rigged out. And at that time, there is no way he could have won the election because he was a sectional leader. He was only known and accepted in the north. And the northern votes alone cannot take him to power. But they purported that he was rigged out and they began to kill. He has his own children. There was a parent in Ibadan. He has only one child and he was a copper. They killed that boy. All because Buhari wanted to come to power and he was inciting violence. Well, as fate to have it, by 2015, he contested for the fourth time. I remember I was telling some people cared to listen then that Buhari, I saw him as a one-room president. He was in one room. Though the room seems to be neat, well organized, but how can 200 million people live in one room comfortably? I said, this man is bringing hardship to Nigeria. Some people don't believe it. If I have a close friend, also now late, Pastor Elisha Salako, he said, Baba, that man will do well. He tried. He wanted to do well in 1983, 84, 85 before his government was aborted and all the rest. After crying on television, there was a North-Southern alliance that brought the likes of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and whoever to form an alliance. He contested. They told us he won. Note that word. We are told he won. Mohammed Jega did a wonderful work for him. Then the man came on board. Not quite long that he came on board, it was obvious the man didn't know anything about governance. The same way he brought hardship on Nigerians in 1984-85, he started. There was one cartoon that made rounds on the social media then, on WhatsApp especially, of how Buhari was given a baton, like somebody running a relay race on the field. Immediately they gave him a baton, he turned back and was running opposite. So the person was saying, Buhari, 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 Buhari. Even the coach was chasing him to turn him back so that he can face the right direction. The coach can catch up with him. I said, this person, this cartoonist, has gotten sight of what Buhari was about to do. He was going to drag Nigeria back. Buhari didn't drag Nigeria back by 8 years he spent. He dragged Nigeria back by more than 50 years. So what are his legacies? Let me list them. 10 legacies. Number one is that of fanaticism. Buhari belonged to Wahhabism sect of Islam. Just go and study or Google about Wahhabism for you to understand the worldview, the perception of President Muhammadu Buhari about other religions and the world in general. Another legacy is that of bloodletting. Legacy of bloodletting. It's only God that knows how many people that man killed or how many people were killed because of him. During his era as the head of state in 1983, in 1984-85 time, then during his struggles to come back to power by all means, not knowing he has nothing to offer, nothing good to over Nigeria. The third legacy is that of hardship. Like I mentioned earlier in my talk, in 1984-85, he changed Nigerian currency, which brought hardship on people, including myself as a student then. I still remember I had some old notes I couldn't change until he stopped exchanging old notes for new ones. All because he wanted to deal with some politicians who will eventually have their ways to change their own money. Another legacy is legacy of dishonesty. As much as people try to picture him as a pristine, cleared, holier than thou man, Buhari till he died could not provide school certificates. He didn't have certificates. How he managed to rise and become a general is only God that knows. So he didn't finish secondary school, yet he was claimed to have been sent to India military school for training and all the rest. How did he manage to do it? During the electioneering, democratic electioneering, one of the requirements is to file your credentials. You couldn't produce a school certificate till he breathed his last. And some people will come and tell me he was an honest man. No, he was not. Another legacy is legacy of banditry. Before Buhari came on board, one of the flank on which he rode is insecurity. That was the time Boko Haram was on rampage in Borno State, Yobe State, and Gombe State. Only 3 states of all the 36 states in Nigeria. That happened during Buhari's 8 years presidency as civilian president. Banditry became household word in Nigerian household. Instead of curtailing and defeating Boko Haram within 180 days, as he claimed, and as his Lai Muhammad, spokesman, then said that within 180 days we eradicate Boko Haram. Not only is Boko Haram still killing people today, but the insecurity spread to all other parts of the country, predominantly northwest, north central, including Abuja, the seat of power. Instead of defeating Boko Haram, insecurity got skyrocketed. Children kidnapping. I remember them lamenting Chibok girls kidnapped. Under his administration, not one, not two, not 3 schools that this banditry went and kidnapped children in Kaduna State, in Yobe State, in Zamfara State, even in Ondo State, even in Ekiti State. They kidnapped school children under his nose. This is the same man who claimed he will fight insecurity. So he left behind the legacy of banditry and insecurity. Not only that, he also left behind another legacy of nepotism. Controller General of Customs, a Fulani man. Inspector General of Police, a Fulani man. National Security Advisor, a Fulani man. Federal Inland Revenue Service, a Fulani man. Group Managing Director of NNPC, a Fulani man. Buhari ruled Nigeria, a country of over 350 ethnic groups, as if it was only one ethnic group that mattered in Nigeria. This was a man who claimed to be fighting corruption and nepotism. And when it was queried, he said you can only work with those you trust. So that means he only trusted his kingsmen. No other Nigerians can be trusted. And yet he wanted to rule us. No other Nigerian tribe can be trusted. Yet he claimed to be a national leader. He claimed to be an elder statesman. Buhari's nepotism was so evident that he ostracized or estranged even some of the people who voted him or who rooted for his leadership during campaign. He also left behind a legacy of medical tourism. Since the history of Nigeria's independence, there have been no Nigerian leader, no Nigerian president who spent so much time and so much Nigerian money on medical tourism abroad than Muhammadu Buhari. He wasted our money. You couldn't, for 8 years, you couldn't fix one hospital in Nigeria. Not even the one under his nose tree, the one in Nasoro. Of course, there was a time his wife even came on board and came out and shouted. She came to the meeting and said, there is not even Panadol in Nasoro. And this same Nasoro that is receiving over 13 billion naira budget annually or thereabout. I can't remember the exact figure. He left behind legacy of medical tourism. And that's why today, any little headache you can see Nigeria, even President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been following suit. It is so shameful that Nigeria, as talented as we are, as rich as we are, we don't have a functional hospital that can treat our leaders, not even a governor. Let a local government chairman have headache. He must go to London, must go to France, he must go to Germany, must go to India. They are shameless set of people. Buhari was their captain. Not only that, he left a legacy of nationalism or polarization. Buhari defended Nigeria. Hausas against the Igbos. Igbos against the Yoruba, Yoruba against the Jonkun against the thieves against the Fulani against the BBO. It was so bad that people began to listen to voice of disintegration and separation in Nigeria. Because others were estranged. We don't have sense of belonging in our father's land. That was what gave people like Nnamdi Kanu and Chief Sunday Igboho clout. People accepted them because the purported leader was so apostate that he polarized Nigeria. Nigeria was divided by the fault lines of ethnicity and religiosity. Another legacy, I don't want to spend too much time. I just want to put it on record so that the record can be balanced for generations to come. Because I have seen some people shouting on the media, it was the best thing that could ever happen to Nigeria. Such people must be either moron. I was listening to Pastor Tunde Bakari was saying President Buhari meant well for Nigeria. It's the difference between intention and action. He may mean well, but he didn't do well. I expected Pastor Tunde Bakari to have said something better than that. But of course, since he's a politician, it's not more a pastor. So you will probably want to genuflect. Possibly they can consider him for vice presidential slot in 2027 election because he has left the pulpit for so long, even though he's still maintaining his pulpit. Not only was Nigeria polarized, Buhari left behind another legacy of poor leadership. The man who went to Chatham House in London in 2015, when the election was coming, that was going to leave from behind. For 2-3 years, Buhari didn't give press interview. He refused to address Nigeria. Because his failure was apparent. He was dodging questions. In fact, when he eventually said he was ready for interview by pressmen, they fettered the questions they wanted to ask him before they allowed him to talk, because they knew he would goof. He has nothing. The way he met Nigeria, he left it more badly than the way he met it. You see, in the educational sector, you see it in the medical sector, you see it in the security sector, you see it in the banking sector, you see it in the infrastructural sector. Tell me which sector did well under Buhari's 8 years administration. In his 8 years administration, there is nothing you can point to that works. Some people will want to say he did railway, rail line. He imported railway or coach of rail line that have been phased out more than 20-30 years ago in the Western world. That's what he brought to Nigeria. They're celebrating. Not quite 3 months that Kaduna Abuja railway started work, we began to hear of railway getting spoiled in the middle of the road at the dead of the night, and banditry kidnapping people in Kaduna. The same thing happened between Lagos and Ibadan. Railway got spoiled, and this is what you want to parade as his achievement. He also left behind the legacy of squandered opportunities. Beside him and Obasanjo, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo, there have been no persons in Nigeria who are so lucky as these people or as Buhari. While Obasanjo did relatively well, Buhari didn't do anything good for Nigeria. At least President Obasanjo paid off our debt from $83 billion then, after bargaining for whatever debt forgiveness. We paid off our debt to $1.3 billion, with foreign debts accounting for less than 20%. But when Buhari came there, debt skyrocketed. He left behind debts of close to $80 billion, even though our debt is now going to $130 billion because Tinubu is following suit. From less than $1.3 billion debt, our national debt has now ballooned to close to $80 billion under Muhammadu Buhari without anything to show for it. Before he came on board, a bag of rice was 4,000. The best brand of rice was selling for 8,500. That was one I used to buy. 8,500 naira. Under his leadership or administration, a bag of rice became 45,000, 50,000. Later, they brought it back to 40,000. People say, yes, the price of food has come down. I don't know why people are so daft. Something he met at 8,500. What of the price of petroleum? The price of petroleum was 87 naira 50 kobo under Goodluck Jonathan administration. But before he left, he was buying petroleum for 165 naira. This was the same man who said there was no subsidy. How much was exchange rate before Buhari came on board? Exchange rate then was 180 naira to $1. I remember vividly because I was running a project in America then. I was publishing 4 of my books. My intention was to publish those books and bring them back to Nigeria for sale. But by the time Buhari came on board, forex skyrocketed. There is no way I can bring back those books to Nigeria for sale. They will enter market here. Because a book then will be costing like 16,000, 20,000 naira. By the time you factor in rate of exchange, forex. Before Buhari left office, we are changing $1 for almost 500 naira, between 460 and 480. Later, twilight of his administration, it enters 780, 760 from 180. That was how all in my investments in those books got stopped. It pained me a lot. Buhari failed me as a person, and Buhari failed Nigeria. But like I said in the beginning of my talk, talking about legacy is not about the departed soul. He has squandered his opportunity and left, but so that the present leaders and coming leaders can learn. If you are given opportunity to lead in whatever capacity, try to do your best. Try to leave a legacy of positivity and of development, growth, program, and achievement, and not this kind of wishy-washy, perpetuated backbone string kind of leadership that Muhammadu Buhari left behind. Good day. Thank you.